Hi, I'm Jane Vinet, volunteer host for Shaw Spotlight. Today is one of my favorite topics. We're going to be talking about a great community event, Coldest Night of the Year. And I am joined by the Coldest Night of the Year event director, Elspeth Erickson. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Jane. Thank you so much for having me today.
I'm so glad to have you back here with me. I want to hear all about what's planned this year for Coldest Night of the Year.
Well, Coldest Night of the Year is an exciting event, and so I'm really glad you're excited as well. It's an event that happens every year across Canada. It's a moment that communities across Canada pause and really take a moment to think about issues of homelessness and precarious housing that affect our communities. It's happening this year in 183 communities across Canada. And we're really excited that it's happening here in Nanaimo and in Parksville as well, and in several other locations across the island.
I was thinking about how this project really is something that's so fundamental to community. And you've got a great theme name for this year's event.
We do. So the theme changes every year. And really has a lot to do with belonging and togetherness. And this year, the national theme that's been identified is Gather for Good. It's such a wonderful concept. And I think it has two different resonances with our community. The first is, of course, we're coming back and gathering together in person this year, 100%, after a couple of years where COVID meant that that couldn't happen fully. So that's a really exciting moment. But then the other half of it really is the idea that in community we gather, and we might be different people from different parts of the community. We may be people from a well-off neighborhood, people from a more middle-class neighborhood, people who are living in precarious situations, and yet all of us are part of the community. Mm-hmm. And the concept of gathering together around the table for the good of all is really fundamental to that, and a really beautiful way for us to move forward.
Yeah, it certainly is. I know that you're building off an event. You said last year it was COVID. You had to make all kinds of concessions and figure out how, like everybody was pivoting. And now that you're back, you've got a big job in front of you, because you guys were pretty successful last year here in Nanaimo and Parksville, correct?
We were, and you know, I think all across Canada, I think one of the things that surprised all of us, and definitely those of us coordinating the event here in Nanaimo and Parksville, was the fact that in spite of COVID and in spite of restrictions, in spite of a lot of fear that people had over the last 2 years, I think the idea of resonating with the concept of community and making a difference drew people together in ways that were unprecedented. So indeed, last year we well surpassed our intended targets. And this year, we're well on our way to do the same. It's tremendously exciting. Even though, again, difficult times in our world, in our country, in our province, people really seem to want to make a difference and really want to come together to walk and to take a stand for such an important issue.
Yes, for sure. As we know, everything that's happening, we've got inflation that leads to very much to issues with everyone's mental wellness. When we're unsure about our financial security, so many of us are just a step away from being unhoused. I mean, we know here that we have students who are living in their cars while they go to university. Rents are high, times are tough. So this event does so much for the most vulnerable and marginalized in this community. We know that. So Island Crisis Care does such incredible work. Tell me a little bit about the work that you folks do.
Well, you know, Island Crisis Care Society is one of many organizations in Nanaimo and in Oceanside really trying to make a difference against these issues. ICCS has been around for about 33 years now, so we're, I guess, not the young folk on the block any longer, but we've been trying to grow and respond through the years to the needs of people who are experiencing precarious housing and often concurrent challenges with mental health and with substance use that go along with that. And from very humble beginnings, way back all those decades ago, the programs have really grown in response to the needs that we see around us and the needs that, as you quite rightly said, people are responding to in the community. Now ICCS has 13 programs across Nanaimo and Oceanside, offering different kinds of support to people who have experienced precarious housing.
And you have a new program called the Project Rise.
Project Rise, we do. And actually that's one of the program areas that's made possible by things like Coldest Night of the Year. Of course, Coldest Night of the Year it's a fundraiser as well as an awareness raising moment and a community gathering moment. And the funds that are raised through Coldest Night go to some of those innovative projects like Project Rise and a new program called Life Skills for Community Connection. And those are programs that really aim to try to meet the needs of folk in our programs or in the wider community who want to reconnect with community. Part of the Gathering for Good idea. Project Rise started last year, just around this time last year, and it's an employment training program for people who have experienced homelessness.
How many people have started in your training program?
Oh, it's been exciting. So we've had 4 groups go through the program now. Each group starts at about 8 to 10 and moves forward, and each group has had 5 or 6 people complete the whole program, which is tremendously exciting.
And you're connected to a bakery here in Nanaimo,
Well,
correct?
That's true as well. So ICCS is a very innovative organization.
So it's like social entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
Right?
So there's a social purpose company that's a subsidiary of ICCS, the Nanaimo Bakery and Cafe. We strongly recommend people go there for their coffee and snacks. Again, it's an opportunity to gather in a community location where the food that you buy and the proceeds and profits from that can go back into these programs that really try to make a difference for all of us.
I just love it. I love programs that give twice. I just think they're the best. So
it's a win-win in a real way.
That's right.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit more about, the whole idea that homelessness is a humongous issue. It's a problem that we know no one organization or one person can solve on their own. And when we think about, this event, I know that for me as an individual, someone living in this community where I see daily what's in front of us, and I'm trying to, I really think about how it gives me, people like me, a chance to go and make a huge difference.
Absolutely. Jane, you've hit the nail on the head. I think this kind of event where we're faced with an issue as a community that is overwhelming. And as individuals, we see it, we know that it's a problem, but as individuals, we don't really know what to do. We want to make a difference and we don't know how. The problem seems so large and so beyond us. With this kind of event, like Coldest Night of the Year, it gives the opportunity for you and for me and for other viewers out there to be able to stand up and say, okay, I can't change the whole problem, but I can do this small thing. And it's possible for me to join a team and to call my friends and say, hey, let's get together and walk together and raise some funds. And doing that, I know that while I don't change the big problem, I know that I contribute to making a difference.
What I loved last year was watching families come out with little kids in strollers, and it was such a community and a family and a personal thing. I mean, of course, you've got businesses and organizations who create teams, and everybody's kind of competing a little bit for that top spot
with the kudos for winning, of course. For
raising the most funds. But it can be something as simple as one person, just one person to make a difference.
It can. And I agree with you. It was beautiful last year seeing so many people come together. And of course, have the fun, because it is intended to be a serious cause, but a fun event, but also just come together to make a difference. And I must say, last year, you may recall that while it was a really fun event and a really important cause, it was a really wet evening. So here in BC, the event is called Coldest Night of the Year. It's Canada-wide. And of course, in some parts of Canada, it's pretty cold. They have snow. Sometimes they have storm warnings that cause them to have to adjust a little bit. Here in BC, we know that whilst it may snow, it's likely to do something else from the sky. And it did that last year. It rained bitterly last year. So I think we've dubbed last year as the wettest night of the year.
Oh.
We hope that it won't be that again this year. But you know what happened is that people went out walking. They were soaked to the skin and cold and miserable, but it made them realize just what it's like to get cold and wet and not have somewhere to go afterwards. It was a powerful, powerful impact.
It was not only that, just the power of being out in our community and walking around and seeing unhoused people, and knowing, as you said, being cold, wet, soaked to the skin, and just really getting to experience firsthand. Yeah, it's a country-wide problem, right?
It is, and a global problem, it really is. But through Coldest, I really think by participating in this way, all of us can make a difference.
One of the really exciting things I've found, I mean, after I met you last year and learned all about Coldest Night of the Year and did the event, I was really impressed with just how organized this event is. Anybody can easily join, become a team leader. Like the tools that you have are just fantastic.
It's exciting, and that's the advantage of being part of a national event. Even though it's very much for us a community event, it is run nationally, and that gives the opportunity for us to access all of the tools, the online platform. Anyone can sign up simply by going to cnoy.org. Either Nanaimo or Oceanside or any other community that they happen to be a part of.
Now this year, will the walks be centralized? They'll all be just one, is it one walk at night? Because last year you could start at different times because of COVID, there were a lot of pivots you had to make. Is the structure the same?
Absolutely. This year we're trying to gather as many people as possible to walk together. There'll be a walk in Nanaimo and another one in Oceanside and in other walks across the island, as I say. People still have the opportunity, if they happen to be out of town during that time on that date, they can walk on their own. But as much as possible, we want to be together and really gather. So here in Nanaimo, it's going to start and end, as it did last year, in Maffeo Sutton Park. It's a wonderful venue, and it really is an opportunity to gather lots of people together. And then walkers will go on either a 2-kilometer or a 5-kilometer walk from there. The 2-kilometer walk will go across the waterfront and loop back. And then the 5-kilometer walk will go a little bit further, straight up that hill. On Franklin Street. So it's going to be a good energizer boost, but we've got lots of support along the way to help people along.
In Parksville, where will the walk, is the walk in Parksville?
The second walk is in Parksville, and it's going to start and end at Parksville Community Park. And the same idea, 2-kilometer and 5-kilometer will both leave there, and one will loop back sooner, and one will go a little bit farther. But
so do you have any favorite stories from last year's event? Is there anything
well,
really?
You know, there are so many wonderful stories from last year's event, and so many great supporters that were part of our walk last year and became part of it again, including sponsors. I must mention our sponsors. We've got many sponsors this year, but our 2 lead sponsors here in Nanaimo are Grant Thornton and Main Road Mid-Island, with many other sponsors, and I hope that all of your viewers go and look at the website because you can see all of the sponsors listed there.
And do you have enough volunteers to help you put the event on, or are you looking for volunteers?
We're always looking for more volunteers as well. We need volunteers to keep everyone safe.
Because not everybody can walk, but they want to find, like we're saying, there needs to be an opportunity for everyone in the community to contrue to do something good. So.
And everyone can. So those who want to walk can. Those who want to volunteer are very welcome and sign up at the same location. And those who really don't feel like they can do either, they can still join in just by donating funds at the same site. And there's no age limit. You said you saw young folk and older folk. I think just one story that I wanted to bring up from last year that was so heartwarming. We had walkers of all different ages, young, old, and we had one lady who was 101 last year.
I heard
her name was Babs, and she walked, and walked the year before as well. And really, I think that's such an example of how we can always do something to reach out and help others in our community.
So Elspeth, one of the most exciting things every year about this walk is the hat. You know I'm a hat person. Tell folks how they can get one of these unbelievably cool hats.
Well, these are cool hats this year. So one of the iconic things about Coldest Night of the Year is the toque. The toque changes every year. Sometimes they're bright yellow, sometimes they're blue. This time they're a very stylish gray. And the toque really is a symbol of achievement for those who participate. You do have to raise money in order to get a toque. So anyone who raises $150, or for a young person under 18, $75, they will earn a toque and get to wear this mark of achievement, this badge of honor as they walk.
All right, well, I'm putting my hat on. Here we go.
Here we
there,
go.
I'm toasty warm
Oh,
now.
you look fantastic, Jane. This is great.
So remember, head over to the Coldest Night of the Year website, sign up your team, sign up as an individual, volunteer, give back, gather for good. And make sure you're there for the event on February 25th. Thanks, Elspeth.
Thank you so much.